Did you know that St. George, Utah and its surrounding cities is one of the fastest growing areas in the United States? If you're thinking about moving to St. George, Utah in 2026, this video is your must-watch guide. Let's dive into what makes this city so special and what you need to know before packing your bags. And don't forget to stick around for later on in the video for some insider tips you've probably never considered. Let's get started.
So let's first talk about what makes St. George special, and I think the easiest way to encapsulate that is to say what our business partner Sue says, and that St. George is the least expensive, nice place to live. It is a true paradise. 9 months out of the year it has great weather. Yes, even when it's raining like this is actually nice because it means we're gonna get some rain, which is always a good thing. So it's got nice weather 9 months out of the year, and it's just a really nice place to live, but the premium on it is really not that high. You wanna talk about the premium on it?
Yeah, so when you're thinking about like destinations, right? Like you're thinking like Hawaii, California, New York, those kind of places where people go to vacation. There's usually a premium compared to, let's say, the median home price of the whole country. In fact, the premium can be absolutely massive. When we're talking about Hawaii or California, it can be 5-10 times more expensive than what it costs for the median home price in the United States. Whereas in St. George, I'd say it's about, depending on the month or whatever, it's about, let's say, 10 to 20%, give or take, of a premium. So it is a bit more expensive than the national median home price, but not by much. And the fact that you're like buying into this place that has such such a draw to it magnetically. People come from all over the world, literally, to come here and experience the area. The fact that you have that much interest in the area and it's not that expensive, really leads to the value that's created here.
So if you're watching this video, you probably are aware of this value. That's probably why you're attracted to it. So what do you need to know if you're thinking about moving here to St. George? So first, let's talk about a lot of the places around here are HOAs, right? Which not everybody likes. I mean, there are places that aren't HOAs, but you want to talk about kind of just like if you are buying a home here, you probably most likely are going to be purchasing it in an HOA.
Yeah, if you're looking to buy a home and it's, let's say, built in the last 20 years or so, give or take, chances are it's in an HOA. Not to say that's not, you can find new construction that's still a spec home that's not in an HOA, but by and large, they're in HOAs. Whereas where you get, like some people like the older homes because they have less propensity for HOAs. Me, myself personally, I don't mind HOAs. They kind of keep things somewhat uniform and, kind of consistent. And sometimes they actually include a lot of amenities. So sometimes they'll have pools, sometimes rather significant, nice pools. They may take care of the front landscaping of the yard, which is again one less cost that you have to incur. So there's good and bad to it. And the HOA dues, depending on what you're getting, like if you're getting a house, they don't tend to be exorbitantly expensive. Like I'd say in about the vicinity of $100 per month price range. Obviously it can vary depending on what the project is, but it's not like this crazy huge premium that some other places offer. So before we continue, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Sean Dazad.
And I'm Courtney Dazad.
And I'm a licensed realtor here in the state of Utah. And if you're watching this channel, you might be thinking, wow, Sean, I love St. George. I love the blue skies, although it's a little bit cloudy right now. I can't wait to move here. Now the problem is I'm not local. I may be a state, I may be even out of the country, so I don't know what to do. I totally get that. That's why you reach out to us, because we work with a team that has over 40 years of experience here in the St. George region itself. So we know all the nooks and crannies. So what you want to do is you want to give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us, or you can use WhatsApp if you're outside the country. Another thing that you need to know is that if you do come out here to live, you're gonna get pretty lazy about driving places, because if you're in the area where most people live, right, kind of like in the center of St. George and just a little bit around it, everything's gonna be about 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just something to know and get used to, is that, you might become a little bit lazy with that convenience that St. George has.
Yeah, definitely depending on where you're coming from. But yeah, a lot of places, again, St. George is pretty compact, especially the greater St. George region that we're thinking about, because Washington County itself is not huge. But the places that people primarily live within Washington County, it gets shrunk that much further. And so, yeah, look from one end to the other, like from one end to the city center in St. George itself is about 15 minutes, give or take. So it is nice. It's convenient that way for sure. And then you find yourself getting soft by it.
Yeah.
Like in fact, actually, a business partner, Sue, was running an errand or whatever on the other side of town. And Courtney, you actually asked them like, oh, you want to go have some lunch? And she's like, I'm like 20 minutes away. It's not gonna work.
Yeah, she's 20 minutes away. But I totally understood what she was saying.
I get it.
Then on the flip side of that, there are some people who come to this area because they sort of want to have their cake and eat it too. They're attracted to that small town living, but they also want the convenience of, a mid-sized city, which is what St. George is. We have a highly ranked hospital here.
Yeah.
We have a university here. But there are some small towns around here. I mean, Hurricane is one of them, and then you can go even farther out from Hurricane where you get that small town charm. Now, I would not say that still follows that 15-minute rule. So if you are living in Hurricane or a little little bit farther out, that won't be the same.
Yeah, you're pushing more like the 30 minutes
Yeah.
ish, like point. Which again, by and large, most of the country is totally fine with. It's just that you're really just stuck here.
Sorry, it was raining. We didn't want to destroy the camera equipment. So we were talking about hurricanes. So yeah, if you are in hurricane or maybe some of the outskirt cities because you want the more small town life, it'll probably be, like a 30-minute drive or maybe a little more depending on where you want to go. Another thing you need to know, this is pretty obvious, so we're not going to belabor the point, but the summers are hot here, very hot. I would say that it's similar to Las Vegas, not quite as extreme. I would say all weather here isn't quite as extreme as Las Vegas. For example, I was actually driving through Las Vegas yesterday, and there was so much wind and dust, you actually couldn't even see the buildings. It was kind of crazy. But then as soon as you go through the gorge to here, everything was fine. So,
yeah, we're in this funny little sweet spot between the gorge and Pine Valley Mountains where it's insulated, I guess. And so it kind of stops a lot of the more extreme weather patterns from happening here.
Yeah.
Again, not to say it doesn't get hot, because it definitely does. But I will say, because it's a dry heat, you can work around it. So even in the dead of summer, even if you have triple digit temperatures, in the mornings, in the evenings, that's when people do their outdoor activities where they can actually still be outdoors. Whereas, if you're in Florida and Texas, there isn't outdoors in the summers.
Except for the water in Florida. Of course, we also do have water here. That's maybe something that's a little bit surprising to people because they think, oh, it's a desert, there's no water. Obviously, there's limited water, but we do have two rivers here. We do have the Virgin River, and we do have the Santa Clara River, and then we do have some reservoirs that are, people use for recreation. So it's not quite as deserty as you'd think. I think that's another thing is that because we're in a valley, 45 minutes in any direction, you are very high elevation. You can escape that heat really quick. You can get to a completely different terrain. It's a lot greener. You have alpine in Pine Valley. You have just the beauty of Zion National Park, just 45 minutes that way. So yeah. I mean, it's a lot easier to escape the heat here than you might think. And then obviously you need to know that if you don't love the outdoors, I really don't know what you're gonna like about living here because that's what people do, right? I mean, for your recreation, you're gonna be doing something outside, so.
Very outdoor centric, right? Like where it's an outdoor centric area. I mean, it's no surprise that the senior games are here.
Yeah.
The Ironman's been here, and you have tons of hiking trails, cycling trails, running trails. Pickleball is huge here. Obviously, golf courses. We have 22 or so golf courses here. So we just have so much outdoor activity. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and then another thing you need to know is that we are an hour and 45 minutes northeast of Las Vegas. So that is a way to sort of fill in the gaps in any shopping and dining that you might be missing here.
Yeah, exactly. Because obviously Vegas has the sports teams. They have obviously fantastic restaurants. They have fantastic shopping experiences. If you want big city life, you can get your taste of it, but you don't have to live in Vegas.
So before we get to the insider tips, which is going to be kind of the meat of this video, comment below where are you coming from, where are you thinking about moving to St. George from, and then now let's talk about some of the insider tips. So one insider tip here is that when you buy a home here, if it is a home that needs work, like for example, maybe it needs some updating, you're really not going to get any discount for that. That's not to say that there isn't a good reason to buy a home that needs updating, that you need to do your own work to it. I mean, I know people that all they care about is the yard, so that's really hard to find like a really nice yard in a newer home because that's just the way new construction is now. But you're not going to get a discount for it. You're just going to have to do it pretty much for the same price.
Yeah, and what we mean by no discount, like so the cost of actually rehabbing the home to get it to what you're looking for, let's say to make it more contemporary, that you may get a discount from like a totally fixed up home.
Yeah.
But that discount is basically just the cost of updating it. So when people think about like flipping and all that other stuff, they're getting a massive discount beyond obviously just the improvement values. That's not really happening here so much. Not to say it doesn't happen like at all, but you're just not getting that big of a discount ultimately.
Yeah.
But like when we're saying, it still may make sense for you though, because like you're mentioning the big yard, maybe not being in an HOA as much. Also, again, maybe you just really just want some eclectic feel, like there's some sort of treatments that you really want to do, or you just want to really personalize it to your own aesthetic, then it probably is worth it for you. It's just don't expect, again, a huge discount based off of the condition.
Yeah, and then we probably should reframe, what is considered old here, homes that are old, because this is a big new construction area. Probably about 30% of the homes that are sold are new construction. So what is old, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we're even stretching to say something that's like 20 years old is kind of old. Yeah. A lot of the stuff has been happening definitely since the year 2000 onward. So anything, I would say pre-2000 is kind of old, where, again, Which is again nothing bad. It's just more like resetting your like mind frame, right? Because when we came from California, that's not how we thought of old. We thought like old was like basically what 1960s, 1970s and older. And even then, other parts of the country, they may go way farther back than that.
Yeah.
It's just that here, really pre-2000, if there's a 19 in front of it, it's old.
Yeah. Now, another insider tip is that whole real estate rule, location, 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 it kind of doesn't apply here, which is kind of interesting. It kind of just speaks to the fact that St. George is really just nice. I mean, even in the older areas like we're talking about, it's not an area that you're thinking, oh, I don't like this place. It's sketch or whatever. So there really is no premium on location. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, again, I would say there's certain pockets, certainly like in Stonecliff, there are certainly ones where location obviously is a thing. But by and large, it kind of blows my mind because again, the first three rules: the location, location, location. You're like, they kind of again. I can't say that this will be perpetually what's the case. Maybe as St. George fills in the gaps between these different developments, it becomes more of a thing. But really, it's kind of at the end of the day mostly about price per square foot. It's more the attributes of the home itself rather than the location that it's in. The only caveat to say to that is probably if it's got a view, right? Like there's gonna be a view premium, of course, but otherwise, it's kind of, it's really weird because again, coming from California, location was everything. You wanted to be that shack on the nice block, Here, it's like you will have a $5 million palatial estate, honestly, $10 million palatial estate, 20,000 square feet, crazy. But next door to it is like maybe a 2,000 square foot, $600,000 house. It blows my mind, but that's just kind of what it is here. So maybe actually, if you really like location, you're kind of at an advantage here because people really don't seem to care too much. Oh, and actually to illustrate it, like literally when we're talking to prospective buyers that are looking to buy in the area, we'll kind of, the attributes of home for this year range, like let's say 2005 to 2010 or 2010 to 2015, those attributes for this price per square foot, pretty much regardless of where you are in St. George, that's going to be what you should expect. So it's truly about the house, okay? How many square feet is it? Okay, well that price per square foot, based off of that much square footage, that's going to be more or less what the price is. Like, and then it's, again, it blows my mind because it's violating every rule of real estate that I know.
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting too, even when you go out into Hurricane and you think, oh, it's farther away from the center of town, there's going to be a way discount on that because people have to drive farther if they want to do the big community events and stuff, but it actually is fairly similarly priced in Hurricane.
Almost exactly, yeah, and which is weird because actually that has been rather recent development because our business partner Sue, she was actually talking about how Hurricane used to be way less expensive, and now it's kind of come up to a point where it's again about St. George range, and you're going, oh, that's an interesting development. But again, what Hurricane does is they have their angles, right? Like they have certain communities that really kind of, again, golf course communities. They have even airport communities, or they have a lake community. They have all these little interesting quirky angles, these niches. And so that's where, again, depending on what you're looking for, Hurricane actually might be the right place for you, even if it is further away.
Yeah, for some people, that's what they want, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they don't want to be in the center of town. For us, we want to be in the center. There's a lot of people that definitely want to be in the center. But then there's enough people that, they say, I don't care. Like, I want to be out.
Yeah, I like to be where commerce is happening, I guess.
Yeah, me too. Another insider tip is that you can't do a nightly rental wherever you are. I mean, I guess you could if you're doing it illegally, but if you want to do it legally
and not get shut down,
or potentially get fined, there's only certain areas, certain zones where you can do nightly rentals.
Exactly. So this is more of I know people think of Utah as being very much about protecting your property, which it is, but at the same time, you can't do anything with your property, especially if you're actually infringing on, let's say, the peace of mind of your neighbors, right? Because, again, the vast majority of the time, there's no issues with nightly rental, like patrons and stuff like that. However, there is, unfortunately, those occasions where the party bus comes in, kind of makes it, like, wreaks havoc on the community, on that little neighborhood. And so enough of that happened where St. George said, okay, no more. There are designated zones, like areas that are zoned for nightly rentals, and that's about it. Unfortunately, though, there are nightly rental zones all over the place. It's not like this is one pocket of town. There's actually scattered throughout. And if that's something you're interested in, obviously reach out to us because we can obviously point you to those specific communities.
Another insider tip is that a 3-car garage and your own personal pool might be amenities that you didn't think were that important, but they're very important here. So, especially if you're coming from a place that isn't quite as hot here in the summer, you might think, oh, I'll just use the community pool. It's really nice to have your own pool when it gets as hot as it does here. And then also the 3-car garage, you know, if it's within your budget, even if you're not really going to use it, it's just, there's such a premium on it. It's just nice to have.
Yeah, for resale value purposes, because people have their toys, you know, like they go off-roading and they love to have their dirt bikes, their side-by-sides, their ATVs, all that stuff. They like one garage space to be dedicated to that.
Another insider tip here is that while not every house has a walkout basement, there are a decent amount of walkout basements here, and they are rather nice. Part of the reason is because in the summers it can get really hot here, and the walkout basement is a lot cooler. Like a lot of times, we don't even put the air conditioning on in the basement because it's really just never gets that hot.
Yeah, and this is not your typical basement that you think of that kind of is unfinished and all that other stuff. Not to say that doesn't exist here, but there's that kind of basement, and there's the walkout basement where basically the main level is the street level, and then everything's on a slope, right? And then the downstairs leads out to the backyard, basically. And so it's functional in that it does stay naturally cooler because you're kind of into the earth, right, a little bit. Actually, our business partner, their actual air conditioner blew out one summer, or like for a few days. Yeah. And so they stayed downstairs in their walkout basement, and you know, they were again able to weather the storm, which was again never fun because it does get hot here in the summer for sure. But that did provide some relief. And then so obviously you do have homes here that have the walkout basement, so effectively they're 2 stories. Then you have the traditional 2-story where it's like main level is the first floor, and then the second floor is the second story. But those obviously tend to be a bit more wasteful when it comes to, because obviously like that generates more heat, right? So the walkout basement types are a little bit more efficient from that perspective. And then again, not all basements are created equal, even the walkout basements. So you want to take into account, okay, one, is it finished? Is it drywalled and all that stuff and normal? And because a lot of these walkout basements, they're incorporated into the house. It's very much like, it's just a flipped 2-story, right? And some of these basements, their ceilings might be a little bit shorter, which kind of really does have a really weird vibe to it. Whereas the walkout basements that you're probably gonna be more preferring has like the same ceiling height as the main level. So it feels, again, very much incorporated to the house.
Yeah.
And remember, I am a licensed realtor here in the state of Utah. So as much as we love making these videos, what we love more is to help with your real estate needs. So whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, what you want to do is you want to give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us, or you can use WhatsApp if you're outside the country.